Good evening. I'd like to call to order our regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, September 23rd, 2019 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our opening ceremony, which consists of the national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members that have given their lives while defending our country. Would everybody please stand? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Miller, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Walker.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jacobs.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
Councilmember Squires.
Here.
Councilmember Earl.
Here.
Councilmember McCarge.
Show Councilmember McCarge absent and excused, please.
Councilmember Kerwin.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda as presented.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Monday, September 23rd, 2019, as presented. Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the public?
Yes. This is the second time, my name's John Murray, live on Lather Street. This is the second time in 3 meetings I've come, and I believe through parliamentary procedure, we can adjust this agenda. And what I'm going to start out with is, you look at the agenda, then you flip it over on the back, the stuff's 200% smaller in print. And the key component is citizens have a right to petition the council for to waive the 3-minute rule. And at this point, I'd like to ask you to waive the 3-minute rule.
No, sir. Thank you. You can have a seat. You can have a seat.
Parliamentary procedure allows me to challenge the chair, and you have to rescind the gavel to the mayor pro tem, and we
Sir,
could,
our
you
time
cannot
limit is 3
manipulate.
minutes.
No, you're censoring
Sir,
our membership.
I'm asking you to sit down. It's the last warning. Sit down. Sit down. I answered your question. Sit down.
Why?
Your last warning, I'm going to have you removed. Anybody else? From the council? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. Okay, we have no recognition tonight. Comments from state and county officials. I see we have Lisa Clayton Hicks here from Senator Betty Jean Alexander's office.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, City Clerk, Treasurer, and City Manager, and residents of Garden City. Again, my name is Lisa Hicks Clayton. I'm the Community Liaison for Senator Betty Jean Alexander. We wanted to give you a brief update to let you know that a trio of Michigan legislators have introduced 3 new bills that would eliminate the redlining in the auto insurance system. increase transparency and premium setting process, and aid consumers in comparison shopping. Those senators are Senator Winnie Brinks, Senator Betty Jean Alexander, and Senator Jeremy Moss. And these bills were announced as amendments to Public Act 218, the Insurance Code of 1956. So we just want to let everyone know that this is something that's getting attention, and the senator has taken a strong and bold stance on this, that it's unfair and unreasonable for companies to target communities of color and charge them inflated premiums simply because of where a person lives. And certainly that impacts people in Garden City as well as the surrounding communities, Redford, Dearborn Heights, and Detroit. We all experience and pay much more and higher premiums on our auto insurance, and certainly it's unfair to be targeted because of where you live. We know that they had struck out the zip code, but they added in the words territory, which created, that pocket of being able to single you out based on where you live. The other thing we want to let residents know, and I don't know if this will be aired on time, but there is a action day and rally on the Lansing Capitol steps this Wednesday. So that is Wednesday, September 25th. And the rally starts at 11:30 a.m. And again, that's at the Capitol steps. And this is addressing Senate Bill 1, which passed earlier in the year, and some of the concerns with, the casualty type clauses and how long, the coverage for survivors of accidents. And so this is something that is very serious that needs to be addressed. And so there is a rally this Wednesday in Lansing for that. All right, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, I had one more thing. We have office hours, not obviously, but we have office hours, constituent office hours with our Wayne County Commissioner, Glenn Anderson, the second Monday of each month. So we'll be back at the Maplewood Center, 10:30 a.m., and we would invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yep.
Can you explain Senate Bill 1? Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Senate Bill 1 is the auto insurance reform bill that was passed. And what I can do is I can send you some more information via email because I don't have it in front of me right now. If I may I do so?
Okay.
Thank you.
Will the senator be able to come here at our next meeting and answer some questions
I
on
will
it?
certainly put that request in, yes.
All right.
Thank you. I see Mr. Peterson from State Representative Joel Jones' office. Mr. Peterson?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Manager, council members, Garden City residents. Really only have three items I'd like to point out. One, the school aid budget has been finalized. There was a modest increase. The governor was particularly interested in money for at-risk students, also special needs students, and both those objectives were met. Other than that, it was pretty flat, and in fact, we kind of regressed in some areas. At your request, I'd be more than happy to pass out the details. I actually bought the budget with me. The other thing I want to point out is that hopefully the legislature will get on like steroids tomorrow and pass the rest of the budget. We have a deadline. Obviously, we have to do it by the end of the month. My understanding is we may have an extended session tomorrow to complete the rest of the budget. And it looks like it's going to be pretty flat because there aren't many new sources of revenue. The third thing I wanted to point out, which is the last thing, is the fact that, one of the things that I think we do as good citizens is provide service to our community, as you as council members, administrators. There's an opportunity for residents of the city to get involved in state government. We have a number of boards and commissions that are typically in a licensing and regulatory authority. Many of those boards are looking for new members. If there are residents who are interested in applying for any of those positions, please don't hesitate to contact either our office or Senator Alexander's office, and we can recommend them. This is everything from being a barber, the barber board, the Board of Examiners for Accountancy. There are a number of different regulatory agencies that we're looking to staff with new people. Typically, the terms are 3 to 4 years. So we'd be more than happy to entertain any new applicants.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I
Thank you,
have.
Mr. Peterson. Do we have anybody else from state and county officials or federal? Yes, sir. State your name and who you represent.
Of course. Good evening, Mayor and City Council and good folks of Garden City. My name is Oscar. I work for Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, and there's a lot, but I'm not going to go ahead and give an update. Main thing I do want to say, folks, is that we do have our Inkster office as our resource center that is open Monday and Wednesday between 9 and 5. Now, the 5 is the little buffer because the city closes at 4:30, but I tend to stay about half an hour after. So I just wanted to make sure I gave everybody that information. Now that we have our western wing covered, I'm going to be the gentleman who handles that office. And other than that, there are two things. One, we're going to have a Detroit kind of west side, actually in Redford Charter Township. We're going to have our coffee and conversation next Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7:30. And that's a time for you to go ahead and meet one-on-one, kind of in a forum to discuss with the Congresswoman updates, concerns that you folks have, et cetera, et cetera. She wants to make sure that accessibility to your congressperson is a high priority. And lastly, for anyone who's interested or has sons or daughters who are interested in the academy and any of the military academies next Wednesday, the Congresswoman and Congresswoman Dingell are going to be sharing a joint night for an academy night for folks who have children who'd like to join the services and join the services through the academy and want more information on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, what's your last name, Oscar?
Arbulu, A-R,
A-R.
B as in Bravo, U-L-U.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a good night.
Okay, next we will move on to community events. I'm going to call up Monica Fulton, our Community Resource Director.
Thank you, Mayor. I am really excited to share this news. As a result of the 4-H open house that we had earlier this month, there was enough families that were interested in starting a 4-H club at Maplewood. So their first general meeting will be Monday, October 7th, so that's 2 weeks from today, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Maplewood. Once a month they have general meetings which are open to all participants ages 5 to 19. 4-H is a youth-led group, so, and 4-H is more than gardening or raising animals, livestock. They learn robotics, they learn about money and investing, computer programming, gaming, game developing, and nutrition things, and it's all youth-led, so whatever the kids in the group want to learn, and that's what they focus on. So we're really, really excited. So anyone out there who's interested in having their child join 4-H, there's a group starting, and you can learn all about it October 7th at Maplewood. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no petitions or communication, no public hearing tonight. We already took care of the consent agenda. We'll go to,
We didn't do the consent agenda.
oh, I'm sorry,
We do need item 10.
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda, items 10A, 1, 2, and 3.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Jacobs. Any comments from the public? From the general public? From council? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We'll go on to our action items. B1, Mr. Doherty.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. This is an amendment. It's an issue that the city's been dealing with for some time. This would allow for an increase in a maximum allowed square footage of accessory structures. So residents have requested to build larger detached buildings on their property, often due to larger vehicles and advanced hobbies, such as car restoration. Unfortunately, homeowners with double lots cannot include a facility larger than a single lot, which also limits their ability to fully utilize their property. So in short, this amendment will allow for larger accessory structures to be built on a property.
Okay.
Mayor.
Motion's in order.
Mayor.
Councilmember Jacobs.
I move to approve an amendment to Section 154.022, accessory buildings and structures, as presented during the City Council meeting of September 23rd, 2019.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion?
Discussion? If you want, yep, go ahead.
One question is, currently, is there what's the restriction on the size of a structure on property as far as coming close to the property line?
Well, how about the property line itself?
Property line, 5-foot minimum setback, 10 foot on the other, so a total of 15. So the setbacks would still have to be met with this amendment.
And then is this more for if somebody has a double lot?
It would be for anybody that can fit it. Right now, we are at 950 square foot for any accessory building, something not attached to your house, 950 square foot. This would allow it to go up to 1,500 square foot.
It's
Not more than 50% of the total area
Of
of
the
the rear
area of the yard, of the rear
Yes.
yard.
So you have to have the space to have the larger.
So yes, a smaller property could not put in a large facility in the back. It still has to do with the 50% of the actual footage.
Right.
The larger the lot, obviously it can go larger, but still a 1,500 max from 950, which is what it has been.
Okay, is that limited to the size of your lot? I mean, I know a lot of people have the 1 acre lots or the half acre lots, as opposed to someone who has a real tiny backyard. Are determinations going to be made if,
Well, a determination will be made if it would, how much lot coverage you could have for the small lot. So say you had a 40-foot lot, you wouldn't be able to cover more than 50% of the rear yard with the structure. So you probably couldn't get more than probably a 400 square foot garage, which is really kind of a small 2-car garage on a 40-foot lot. Because you just don't have the space to
Right.
meet the setback and accommodate a larger structure at the back.
So there's still a way to limit. I mean,
Yes.
We're not gonna have.
No, yeah, correct.
Correct.
Okay.
So it'll be, I
Still
guess,
match the yard.
yeah, correct, it'll be in scale with each lot.
Any other discussion from council? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item B2, Mr. Doherty.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an amendment to allow for a 6-foot-tall privacy fence in side yards, either 2 feet beyond an existing side door or no closer than 10 feet from the front line of the house. As you'll see on the monitor, this issue came about after receiving many calls from residents regarding the current law that states that they can have a 4-foot fence at the front corner of their home and then a 6-foot fence at the back corner of their home. Residents with side doors have asked if they could place their 6-foot fence up to the side door to allow easier access, especially for their pets. Entering in the backyard is what we've heard the most. So some of the homes would have a 4-foot fence right at the edge of their front door, front of the house. Then they have a 6-foot at the back of their house. So they end up letting their pet out a side door. They have to still go outside to let them into the 6-foot is one of the issues we heard on a regular basis. But basically, the amendment right now would allow for a 6-foot fence to be moved forward to the side door, but still set off from the front of the house, at least 10 foot from the front wall.
Mayor,
Councilmember Kerwin.
I motion to approve an amendment to section 154.037 fences as presented during the city council meeting of September 23rd, 2019.
Support.
support,
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any discussion from council? All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 3, Mr. Doherty.
Mayor, this amendment is a request to allow businesses in the CBD district to place a portable sign in front of their business during daylight hours that the business is open to the public from 1 hour before the business opens to 1 hour after the business closes. Currently, the ordinance reads that a sign permit must be required and that the sign may only appear for 30 days twice a year. So as you look at the monitor, there are 2 signs. Oh, next slide. There are 2 signs that are currently permitted. These are 2 signs that are currently not permitted and have been sent to code compliance for action because they're not permitted at this moment. But it's a good example of the sign that's being asked for permanent display by Orange Jeweler specifically, who has asked for a variance through our ZBA to allow to buy gold sign out every day. So before the council discusses this item, though, it should be noted that this ordinance needs to be changed slightly anyway because it's not in ADA compliance. So again, looking at the monitor, you'll see that's the actual language that we have currently. Portable sign in the CBD shall be located within 4 feet of the main entrance. Within 4 feet is obviously a tripping hazard, and for ADA compliance is unacceptable. So since the ordinance presently states that the sign shall be located that close and be an issue, we have a recommendation, at least in this ordinance that we're talking about now, as additional change, as you'll see in the next slide, basically setting up where it would be moved from 4 foot from the main entrance to 4 foot from the business, as well as putting the language in that it complies with the Americans with Disability Act of ADA not just saying it's out of the way of pedestrian or vehicular circulation. So of the two issues here, that's one of them that I believe needs to be changed anyway, just to be in compliance with federal law. So although it's recommended to adjust language in the law to allow leeway for the sign's location, the council's discussion now it would be, for both of these issues, but certainly allowing a business to post sidewalk signs every day in front of their business in the CBD. So the council may want to consider these two as two separate votes. One being the change I just discussed of changing the ordinance to the location of the sign, and the second vote as to the issue of changing the ordinance to allow the sign to be displayed every day, all day, as long as they're open from 1 hour before to 1 hour after. The question from one of the council members at one point was in reference to this: where are they allowed to actually be posted? That would be not something that's on the table right now as far as a discussion. That's something through the building department. As far as easements go, how far from the street line? Can it be on a sidewalk? And there are some concerns with some of the downtown businesses where it seems to be one sidewalk from the street to the building. But that's not really in discussion at this point. There are places that would be allowed or not allowed. But right now the question would be two things. One, do we change the ordinance to, add the ADA compliance piece? The other piece, of course, is do you want to have signs that are displayed every day the business is open?
Okay. Let me start with the first one, the location of the sign for ADA purposes. Motion is in order, if we wish to make that change.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Earl, supported by Councilmember Lynch. Any discussion from council? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-0. We'll go to the next one, motions in order to allow these signs every day.
Mayor?
Councilmember Squires?
I move to deny an amendment to section 154.606, signs permitted with a permit, as discussed during the city council meeting of September 23rd, 2019.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Discussion from the table.
I just want to clarify this. We're voting to allow them to do it, correct?
No.
No.
We don't want them to put signs out?
No,
Why?
because everyone would be allowed to.
The motion is to deny.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Mayor,
Councilmember Jacobs?
I have a problem down in the downtown area, especially like in the property by the old Kmart's, LA Fitness. There's not enough room there. You put a sign there between the flower pot and the building, and they have to make it a certain distance out. I don't think there's enough room, if you split that difference, for people to get back and forth through there, especially if they're handicapped. And I know we got the ADA approved, but if they put out, 6, 7, 8 businesses there, and each one of those put out a sign, it's gonna be like a figure-8 course going through there. I think it's unsafe, and if we could do it in, for this building or this building, but to have everybody downtown on Ford Road have a sign out, I don't think it'd be safe or look like we want our downtown to look.
Mayor?
Councilmember Lynch?
I agree with Councilmember Jacobs. And the other problem I have is this ordinance would not benefit every business that's downtown in the DDA area or the CBD area, because many of them have the easement right up to their building. And so it would only benefit a handful of businesses and not the entire area. So I disagree with allowing it.
I think it's also an eyesore up and down Ford, Middle Belt, all these signs cluttered. It's also a traffic hazard a lot of times. I've seen them where when you're going to pull out of a driveway onto Ford Road and you look to see if, and there's a sandwich board side, you got to creep out more. People could get T-boned because it blocks their vision. The purpose of allowing them to get a permit for 30 days is a new business opens up, nobody knows about it, he gets a permit to do it for 30 days, so traffic for 30 days knows there's a new barber shop or whatever. I'm okay with that, but not every day. If we go every day, our roads are gonna be cluttered with these, and to me, it's an eyesore, and it's also a traffic hazard, so I'll be voting to deny this as well. Any other comments from the table?
Just a quick question, so the 30-day permit, which I'm fine with, they can only do that once a year, or is there a limit? They can do it twice a year?
I believe it's twice a year.
Okay, I do agree with I definitely agree with the hazard on the sidewalk.
Yep.
If it violates ADA compliance, there shouldn't be out there, which we've already changed that, so, okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the council?
Just that, you know, if you're doing 40 miles an hour down Ford Road or down Middle Belt, you're not going to see anyway what these signs say, only if you're stopped at a light. So,
Okay, I'm gonna ask for the vote to deny. All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes 6-0 to deny the sandwich board signs. Item 4, permitted uses and structure, Mr. Doherty.
Mr. Mayor, this amendment changes who makes the determination as to what is considered a similar use in the CBD. It's presently written at the Planning Commission as final determination on what is a permitted use. This review and acceptance exists nowhere else in the city other than in the CBD district. So as you can see on the monitor, next slide, the smaller picture is the zoning map of the city. The larger map shows that where the zoning administrator currently makes the decision on what is considered a similar use in each zone. The areas in Kelly green indicate where the zoning administrator makes the final decision, which of course is 95% of the city itself. The overall determination for the remainder of the city zones, including C1, C2, C3, O1, as to permitted use is made by the zoning administrator, not the planning commission. Even within the limits of the DDA's operating district, in half of the DDA district, it is the zoning administrator who decides on the permitted use. So this is not so much as changing one zone so that the zoning administrator makes a similarity decision, but, for some strange reason, but in fact, it's changing one zone to be in compliance with the rest of the city.
Okay, motion's in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve an amendment to Section 154.352A, permitted uses and structures, allowing for permitted uses to be determined by the zoning administrator.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Discussion from council.
Mayor?
Councilmember Earl.
Problem that I have with this one is there's already processes in place, and I understand what's going on, and I feel that there might be some mistakes that have been made. However, there's still processes in place. There's appeals that can be made if decisions are made. So the CBD is a specific area downtown that we're trying to highlight, which is probably why, and I don't know all the history, I'll admit that, of why that there's a separate set of rules. I would love to see us and the DDA sit down together and try to work on a resolution for this instead of just changing this. I'm a person who likes to follow procedure, and that's where I'm basing all this off of. There's a procedure in place. I'd like to complete it first. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Mayor,
Councilmember Jacobs.
I've been going back and forth, and the problem I have with it is I've been to a couple of other meetings, and even though we get a legal opinion as to what's allowed, we still have people making decisions that we appoint that tell our lawyer that that's his opinion. And it's a legal opinion, but apparently that doesn't carry weight. And I'm just scared that at some point this is going to come back to bite us. And with the council not having any say in that, I think it's time to move on.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, motion passes 5-1. Item 5, zoning text amendment, retail office use. Mr. Doherty.
Thank you, Mayor. So this amendment would add banquet facilities to the list of permitted uses within the CBD district. However, this point, as we talked about last week when Councilwoman McCarge brought it up, is redundant and therefore moot, as indicated by city ordinance. A banquet facility is already permitted within a CBD district because they are described as dictated by the city's definition of restaurant standard. As you can see on the monitor, for clarity, the city's ordinance states, any establishment whose principal business is the sale of food and beverage to the customer in a ready-to-consume state and whose method of operation is characteristic of a fast food restaurant, a standard restaurant, bar, lounge, or a combination thereof, defined as follows. Now, they're saying there are 3 categories that are defined under the city's ordinances. And those categories consist of the bar, lounge, a fast food restaurant, standard restaurant. Again, they are categories. So as indicated in definition number 3, to be considered as legal in this category, a business must be one of these 3 things. So when you see restaurant standard, it does not mean it's a restaurant, it means a category. And under that category, there are 3 things. And looking at definition for number 3, it must be one of these 3 things. 3A states delivery of prepared food by waiters or waitresses to customers seated at a table within a completely enclosed building. So again, 3A states delivery of prepared food by waiters and waitresses to customers seated at tables within a completely enclosed building. That description certainly describes a banquet facility. But what about a banquet buffet? Somebody once asked me. Well, 3B, the prepared food is acquired by customers at a cafeteria line and is subsequently consumed by the customers at tables within a completely enclosed building. So it should be noted again that the terminology restaurant standard is a category, does not mean restaurant only. So I often say if it said kangaroo and it described a squirrel apparently falls under the kangaroo category. Some people are stuck in saying, well, it says restaurant, so therefore it must be a restaurant. It clearly describes other things than just the standard restaurant as people know it, and it does clearly describe a banquet facility as opined by our city attorney. So it's well-defined. Sections 3A and 3B both clearly describe a banquet facility. Banquets deliver food prepared by waiters and waitresses to customers seated at tables within completely enclosed buildings. Section B confirms family style, buffet style. Please note that only one of the 3 methods listed there in front of you, only one has to be involved to be considered a permitted use directly by right in the CBD district. And not only that, but this description also is in the C2 and C3. So since the ordinance does not recognize the size and uses of restaurant standard, there is no way to point to the size of a banquet facility as to what complies, nor when it needs to be open and what food must be served. In addition, since restaurant standard definition clearly describes a banquet facility, there is no question as to it being similar use or not. Banquet facilities are permitted by right in the downtown CBD district and in the C2 and C3 zones. Now, in response to the many mistruths that people have spread recently, the question is, why is the city pushing banquet facilities downtown? Hopefully now everybody understands that the city's not pushing any banquet facilities. They're absolutely allowed by right. Just because some people don't want to see the business exist for whatever reason, the city council does not have a choice to allow it or not. By the slide you just saw, the city would easily be sued for not allowing a legal business. It's ludicrous for anyone to state that the city is corrupt or is getting paid to allow a legal business to exist. Many people have said this, especially through social media. Why would someone pay off a public official to be allowed to have a legal business in the city? Just put in your legal business. There's no need for anything else. So it makes no sense whatsoever. As everyone can see, banquet facilities are allowed in the city, and your city council is doing everything that they can to avoid another costly lawsuit by following the city rules. There's nothing corrupt about that. Corruption would be not allowing a business that is absolutely allowed in our zones. And by the way, in response to other misleading statements and rumors being put out about this banquet business, it should be noted that yes, the business does pay taxes. Apparently a lot of rumors ran around, and I was asked several times at City Hall, why don't they pay taxes? They have paid over $40,000 in taxes since August of last year. In 13 months, they paid over $40,000 in taxes, and they still cannot open up a legal business in the city. In addition, in response to the statements that no downtowns have banquet facilities, might I mention that a clear 5-minute search on the internet, cities like Plymouth, Wayne, Dearborn, and of course Detroit include banquet facilities in their downtown. Tourist cities like Grand Rapids, Traverse City are flush with them, and every city pretty much I've lived in has banquet facilities in their downtown. Should also be noted that most churches have rooms to rent for banquets, and they're prevalent in downtowns, as well as hotels that certainly have big banquet facilities in downtowns. So to state that banquet facilities are not conducive to a productive downtown is sorely mistaken. Another rumor that came as a surprise to my wife and children is the rumor that I apparently am related to the owners of the banquet facility. Although I have met with the owners a few times and their lawyers, since they have been hindered from opening their legal business, I can publicly state that we are not related in any form or way whatsoever, and having to make such a statement by myself right now is ludicrous considering this basic point. As everybody could see on the screen, banquet facilities are allowed in the city in the CBD, in the C2 and C3. So why would someone start a rumor that we are related when clearly we are not, and their business is allowed to exist? Question mark, question mark. What I have been doing along with the mayor and city council is trying to avoid a lawsuit of discrimination, period. Anyone in our position would be expected to do the same when we consider 27,000 residents would have to be affected by this serious lawsuit. And a lawsuit for what? Because we don't want to use an empty building for an allowed business. It's our responsibility to act in the best interest of all the residents, especially when we're dealing with legal issues. As a side note on economic development, I have been engaged with it for many years, 20 years now since I created a CRA with my town manager in South Florida. A CRA in Florida is Community Redevelopment Agency. It's the same as a DDA. The most basic form of economic development is the attraction of new people with new money. If I say that again, it's economic development at its purest level is new people coming to town with new money. A local fitness center that serves the residents of the neighborhood is not economic development. Those residents already know the city, they already know the downtown. Now, not only do we have Planet Fitness, but we're looking at LA Fitness coming in. As a side note, we can't stop fitness centers from coming into our city because they are absolutely legal to be in our city. So therefore, fitness centers can come in. There were some comments that why doesn't the city stop these fitness centers? It's not the city's position to be able to stop a legal business to come into the city. So a banquet facility, on the other hand, draws hundreds of strangers to the city at one time with new money to spend. No one leaves a banquet and buys a bicycle from the vendor across the street. That makes sense, obviously. But anyone that comes to our city has now experienced Garden City. They know where we are, they know what businesses we have, and they have the ability to come back. Without that type of business, they may never come to our city. So we also have local businesses downtown that can be served by such a facility. Flower shops, tuxedo shops, jewelry stores, bridal shops, pastry shops, hair and nail salons, etc., all are located in our downtown would benefit from a banquet facility. So yes, banquet facilities in an empty building in an empty part of the city with unlimited parking spots would be a great source of economic development for our current businesses and the businesses that will come over time. So with all that being stated, I want to thank the council for allowing me to explain, as I asked the mayor if I can say a few words, the misconceptions that are put out there. And it's well known, my door is always open for anybody to come in with any questions about anything, especially when they hear a rumor that doesn't seem to be true. So now the issue is, does the council want to add banquet facilities to the list of permitted uses within the CBD district? Although they are already permitted, adding the words would just confirm their existence. Deciding tonight to not add the words banquet facility to the ordinance tonight would not stop it from being allowed, because we already know they are absolutely allowed. So it's the question whether the council is to add it or not add it. Either way, they are still permitted at this time. And with that, I yield back my time.
Okay. And I want to stop the rumor that we're changing the ordinance for one business. This ordinance is already on the books. We didn't change it. It's allowed. It's allowed now. My only thing is to add banquet center, if you guys want to, is because we've had planning commissioners make the comment, well, that's the city attorney's opinion. So if they're not going to respect the opinion of our city attorney, maybe we should put the word banquet and cement it in so they definitely know it's allowed. But it's allowed either way we move on this. I'll leave it up to you guys what you want to do with this, but we got board members that think they don't have to listen to our city attorney, or that's just his opinion. So that's all I want to say. But we have not changed any ordinance. This ordinance has been on the books. This is an allowed, permitted use in our downtown. Anybody else? Any comments? Okay. So we want to move on, right?
I'm just gonna clarify one more time. It's already allowed,
It's absolutely.
but you wanna change the wording
By definition, yeah.
to let people know it's already allowed?
Yes, because there seems to be confusion that people, as the mayor mentioned, still say, I don't care about the legal opinion. I see it in front of my eyes, but since it doesn't say banquet facilities, therefore banquet facilities aren't allowed, although it clearly falls under the definition of
So there's no
restaurant standard.
interpretation?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me
So-
say this, too. None of us are attorneys. That's why you have an attorney to get legal advice. We have a city attorney. We asked him to look at this definition, and he said 100% the banquet hall is allowed. So we listen, anybody that hires an attorney for anything, you're going to listen to your attorney. Our attorney tells us the definition already on the books is allowed. They're allowed to open up as a restaurant, they're allowed to open up as just a banquet center, or they can open up as a restaurant and banquet center. The definition covers all three of those, so they can already do that. So just want to throw that out there.
Mayor,
Councilmember Earl.
I heard the attorney, and if the attorney said it, I don't see why we have to reaffirm it with changing something.
I'm okay with that.
No, I
The
don't
prob-
either.
The problem I have with that, Councilmember Earl, is I was at the meeting, and the comment was made by the planning commission that that was just the attorney's opinion and not his, being the commission member. So if this goes back to the planning commission, then they're gonna say, that's just,
It's not on the list.
it's not on the list, it's his opinion, which is a legal opinion, which again, I'm not an attorney either. So apparently, we need to have that word in there so that they'll agree with the attorney. Otherwise, they're gonna hold it up some more, and I disagree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree that we should have to put that in there. You know, the attorney said that they are legally allowed to be in our downtown area.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Rita.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
We decided to start training the planning commission, sending them to classes as well, right?
Yep. all from-
So this would all, they would learn all this going to those classes as well, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so let's move on then, right? Is everybody good with moving on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So Mayor,
go ahead.
do we,
We
there's,
don't have to do anything.
we don't have to do anything
It's
now?
permitted.
Okay.
Item 5, Mr. Doherty.
6, Mayor?
6.
I'm sorry, 6.
All right. 6A and 6B can kind of be brought together a little bit. I'll go through A first. And again, for clarity, because there seems to be some misconceptions about this, this amendment could be considered along with the next one. The first amendment here is to allow businesses in the CBD district to count parking spots across the street from their businesses. This amendment would remove the requirement that collective off-street parking facilities must be located on the same side of Ford Road and Middlebelt Road. It should be noted immediately that it is only in the CBD where this practice does not take place. So as you look at your monitor here, you'll see the same map because it's the same rules as earlier. We can use this, the smaller picture is the zoning map of the city. The larger map shows the spots across the street that can be counted towards capacity of a building. The Kelly green shaded areas, the long areas along the roadways, denotes the areas in which a business can currently count parking across the street, including roads of Ford and Middlebelt. Everywhere in the city, including in half of the DDA district, parking can be counted across the street. It is only in the CBD where the words "on the same side of Ford Road" or Middlebelt Road even exist. Therefore, a business on the east side of Brant Road and Ford Road cannot count parking across the street, but business on the west side of Brant Road and Ford Road can count parking across Ford Road. Even a business on the busy corner of Merriman and Ford can count parking across the street of that busy area. In fact, along 90% of Ford Road and 90% of Middlebelt, spots across the street can be counted by a business towards their capacity. It's only in the small area of the CBD district that parking cannot be counted across Ford Road and Middlebelt. And just to finish up a little bit here, ironically, it's the area that parking cannot be counted across the street is the same area that is supposed to be designed to favor pedestrian traffic, according to the city's CBD ordinance. So while the next amendment allows for additional parking on the block the business exists, this amendment is asking for consideration across the street. I believe at the last meeting that there were some comments made how it doesn't make any sense and it seems really unusual why we would allow people to cross the street. I just want to confirm as what I'm saying now, and as you saw on the map, it goes back to the point that This is an area that we're not asking for some special treatment. We're actually going the other direction to say it should be treated like the rest of the city. So we're really not changing one zone, but in fact, making that one zone congruent with the rest of the city. But the next amendment could be considered in place of this ordinance change.
Okay.
Mayor?
Councilmember Jacobs?
I move to deny an amendment to section 154.354B, site design regulations. 1, off-street parking and loading, removing the language on the same side of Ford Road or Middlebelt Road.
Which one are you doing, A?
That's
He's
A.
doing
That's
A.
denying
Denying
being
A.
able to cross the
Right,
street.
okay.
That's allowing same side of the street parking.
Well, we got to vote on them
That's a separate one.
separate.
Wait.
This one's
No.
just not allowing.
This
to
is
go
allowing them
across
to
the-
cross the road, and he's saying, making a
deny
motion
it.
to deny it. Is there a second? Support, Councilmember Squires. Discussion from council?
Okay, I'm confused.
Me too.
By denying this one, okay, I'll just be very honest. I'm in favor of parking on the block.
Yeah, that's B,
Which is-
that's the next
which is-
one.
That's the
Right.
next one.
I am too,
By
so,
taking, you're saying don't take off on the same side of Ford Road? Is that what you're saying?
I'm
by
saying we're not
denying?
allowing them to cross Middlebelt or Ford Road.
So,
yeah, he
The
wants to
same
deny
block, the
A.
same block parking is the next ordinance, which I'm in support of.
right,
But if we're,
I just want to make
in
sure.
my opinion, if we're gonna do that,
I think the way you
Then-
said it, you confuse everybody.
Yeah.
You-
I
You
just
want
went
to
with the-
deny A where they run across the road.
right.
All right, and I think,
Okay, here's where I'm confused, and Mr.
Mr.
Miller,
Mayor.
if you can help.
Okay.
Okay, when I look at the handout on number 1, it's talking about or within 300 feet of the building. Does that get affected at all by saying, by taking out the word, wait, by not taking out the words on the same side? If we pass on the block, what does it do to number 1, I guess is my question.
Well, it will, actually, it will eliminate the 300 feet.
Okay,
because
it
then
will eliminate
It will eliminate, it will
Okay.
allow you to count, a block could be larger than 300
Right,
feet.
okay, I just wasn't sure how it affected that when we did it. So it would be denying this
Crossing the street,
and approving this to make the
We have
change.
to make
we got to
that
vote
vote.
twice.
Wait, I'm asking Mr. Miller. By denying this, and if we approve this, that would make that change, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? So we got a motion and a second to deny 6A. Okay. No public comments on this, they had their chance at the public hearing at the last meeting. Any other comments from the table?
No.
Okay, all in favor to deny 7A, 6A? 6A.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 6-0 to deny 6A crossing the street parking.
Okay, I'd
Now we
like
go
to
to
do the
B.
other one.
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve an amendment to Section 154.354B, Site Design Regulations 1, Off-Street Parking and Loading, in reference to parking on the block as permitted during the City Council meeting of September 23rd, 2019.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Discussion from the table. I think we've discussed this enough. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. This passes 6-0 to allow same-side block parking. Okay. Moving on to item 7, interlocal agreement with Southeast Auto Theft Task Force. I'm going to call up Chief Tim Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you're aware, we currently participate in the Western Wing Criminal Investigations Task Force, particularly under the Community Response Team. The task force is administered and partially funded by the Michigan State Police and various grants that our activities allow us to get access to. In August, we were notified that the Michigan State Police will be pulling out of that task force and reorganizing under new titles and agreements. They said the drastic changes in enforcement needs for local communities, particularly in the area of marijuana enforcement regulation, is one of the reasons for the change. In order to reorganize into more efficient operations to support local agencies, they opened up some other task force opportunities. One of them being the Michigan Narcotics Enforcement Team, and the other being as a part of the Southeast Criminal Investigations Division, particularly the Auto Theft Task Force. What becoming part of these offers us is to get the same services that we were already getting with the Community Response Team, but also open up some additional funding, including about $110,000 each year were part of the auto theft, plus costs of vehicles for the officers involved, cell phones, related equipment, training, and the overtime being reimbursed. We rely on task force to solve regional problems and ones that, when they hit, require more than just what the road patrol or our investigation division can handle. One such example is the Western Wayne Special Operations Team, which we were here on last Monday when we had a barricaded gunman. Some types of investigations and some types of incidents require greater response. By partnering with the Michigan State Police and other local agencies into task force, we're able to maximize, one, our opportunity for grants, and two, our ability to respond to these problems. So I'm speaking for both of these agenda items because they're two separate agreements. I'm asking for the ability to approve those agreements and join those task force. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody got any questions for the chief? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yeah.
I just would like to add in the proposed resolution on each item to authorize the police chief to execute any of the documents. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to add that, the police chief to execute
Yes.
the documents. Motion is in order.
Mr.
Mayor?
Mayor? Go ahead.
Councilmember Jacobs?
I move to agree to the attached interlocal agreement authorizing Garden City's participation in Michigan State Police Southeast Criminal Investigation Division's SEATT Task Force, and authorize the police chief to authorize the execution of any and all related documents necessary to complete this agreement.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Earl. Any comments from the public on this? From the council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. We'll go to number 8, interlocal agreement for MNET, narcotics. Chief?
This would be under the same concept. This is just part of that reorganization. It's two separate agreements, and that's why it has to be two separate agenda items, but my comments will remain the same from the previous.
Okay, motion's in order.
Mayor?
Councilmember Squires.
I move to agree to the attached interlocal agreement authorizing Garden City's participation in the Metro Narcotics Enforcement Team and authorize the execution of any and all related documents necessary to complete this agreement by the police chief.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any comments from the general public? From council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. Yep. Next, we have P9 contract extension for sidewalk replacement program. I'm going to call Ryan up from Hennessy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
And Brad,
This
our DPS director, I'm sorry.
this item is for the extension of the current sidewalk replacement program. As you're aware, we've been doing a sidewalk replacement program now for 4 years. The first 3 years, we went around the entire city addressing all the trip hazards that were 2 inches and greater. In the last budget year, we started addressing those trip hazards that are an inch or greater throughout the city. We started in the northwest corner of the city, and we're working clockwise through the city. So within the last budget year, with the budget that we had available, we were able to get most of the area north of Ford Road completed. We'd like to complete the area north of Ford Road in this next budget year, so we're looking to finish that off, which is an area bounded by Middle Belt to Inkster and from Ford up to Maplewood. It's a pretty small area. It's about $67,000 worth of work. GV Cement Contracting did the sidewalk replacement program in the last budget year. We were pleased with their work, and they've offered to extend their contract at the same unit prices for this next budget year as well, at $175 per 4-inch sidewalk flag, $189 for a 6-inch flag across the driveway. That's the lowest rate that we've had out of the 4 years that we've done the sidewalk replacement program. So we're looking to approve that, and if approved tonight, we would notify the residents that are affected by that program probably later this week to let them know that they have the opportunity to replace that sidewalk by their own means with their own contractor if they so wish to before the end of this construction season, Otherwise, the city will come in and replace that sidewalk in April and May of next year.
Question?
Okay, Councilmember Lynch?
If somebody has a sidewalk that's what I call marginal, and they decide they'd like to replace more flags, can they do that?
We have allowed that in the past, yes,
Okay.
yes. We have them fill out a special assessment form, just so we have it on record,
Okay,
so that they pay it on their tax, or they don't pay it on their taxes, but they get invoiced for that work, or if, they can either pay it in full, or they can pay it over I believe it's a 4-year period on their taxes if they don't want to pay it in full.
thank you.
Okay, anybody else? A motion's in order?
Mayor,
Councilmember Earl?
I move to approve the extension of the 2019-2020 sidewalk replacement program contract with GV Cement Contracting Company of Brownstown, Michigan, based on contract unit prices in an amount not to exceed $66,925.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any comments from the public?
I believe last year or something, there was a discussion of a warranty on this work. I'm asking if that exists, and I think I heard the word 2 years, and I question why such a short duration, because I'm under the impression from some of the documentaries and that I've read and viewed, it takes 100 years for concrete to cure. So a 2-year warranty seems to be pretty lame. And also I wonder what kind of, there's different statuses of concrete that can be used, and there's a higher pressure level that gives you a better intensity, a longer life period. And I'm just wondering exactly what products you're putting in.
Okay. Ryan, you want to?
Yes, it does have a 2-year warranty, that's standard practice in the industry. Concrete does cure, it continues to cure over time, however, it reaches the required compressive strength typically within 28 days.
Okay. Any other comments from the general public? From council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. Item 10, contract for Elizabeth Street resurfacing.
So we've just finished the Sharon Drive project. As part of that, Hard Rock Concrete did that work. We had to use Elizabeth Street as access to get to Sharon Drive. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of damage done to Elizabeth Street with the heavy truck traffic that was using Elizabeth Street. We did look at those areas. We were going to have Hard Rock Concrete go in and patch those areas at their expense. Looking at the street, though, there are other areas of that street that are in the same condition that they did not necessarily damage. When we did the pavement evaluation 2 years ago, that street was rated between a 3 and 4. At this time, I would say it's probably rated a 2 at this point. We did come in about $130,000 under budget on the Sharon and Gilman project. We did go to Hard Rock Concrete to see if they would be willing to resurface all of Elizabeth Street from Maplewood to Rush with that remaining money. Unfortunately, they don't have the capacity to do the work this construction season. We did also contact CI Contracting, who's doing the asphalt reconstruction program, and they do have the capacity to do it this year and did provide us a quote of $156,500 to basically mill 2 inches of the asphalt surface off, perform any concrete base repairs that are needed underneath, and then put a new 2-inch asphalt layer on top of that. So we're looking to do, basically recommending that we extend CI Contracting's contract to include this street in this construction season at their quote. There will be, I think we calculated $5,600 that we would deduct from Hard Rock Concrete's contract for the damages that were caused on that street as well.
Okay.
Mayor?
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve a contract extension with CI Contracting from Brighton, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $156,500 for Hennessy Engineers of Southgate, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $5,480 for the administrative costs, and the Buccelli Group of Livonia, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $15,240 for the construction, inspection, and management costs for the resurfacing of Elizabeth Street, Maplewood to Rush, for a total cost of $177,220.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any comments from the public? From City Council?
Yes, Mayor.
Yep.
Well, I believe Elizabeth does need to be redone. I'm not real happy with CI Contracting. They're doing Leona, Bach, John Hawk. I think it's taken way, way too long. They disappear for weeks, months at a time. So hopefully we have some timeline put in place so we don't, at this rate, they may be done with Elizabeth before they're done with the other three. And
they're pretty much, CI themselves are pretty much done with the work that they have to do on their project. It's a matter of their restoration subcontractor now coming in to finish the work, so CI should be able to start on
there's
this
still
project.
asphalt driveways that need to be done that haven't been done yet.
And they still have to top a couple streets, we're just waiting, we're gonna do that following the restoration work to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were told it was going to be done a while ago, and we're still waiting.
Well, I know originally, the first few streets that we did put the top coat on before the restoration, and after we've started doing the restorative work, we've decided that it would be best to do the restoration work first, just because we still have construction traffic utilizing that street. So we'd like to see the restoration work done and then do the top coat last.
I just don't like seeing the streets empty for two months at a time.
Sure, I understand that. I will say that has been an issue, not just here in Garden City, but in other communities this year as well. With these projects are taking a little bit longer than we would expect. There's a lot of work out there, a lot of construction work out there, a lot more than what there's been in the last few years, and there's the same amount of contractors. So these contractors are running thin this year. There's going to be a lot of work next year too, but I don't see as much work coming out next year. There was a lot of large MDOT projects that's eaten up a lot of contractors' time, I think, this year, and that's why we're seeing some of these projects. Maplewood is another one that I know we would have liked to seen done more than a month ago at this point. So hopefully next year we'll see an improvement on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the table? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. Item 11, 3-year contract extension for HVAC preventive maintenance. Mr. Oman, our DPS Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is to approve a 3-year extension for the HVAC preventive maintenance contract with Tech Mechanical. Tech Mechanical's been providing this service for us since 2003. They have extensive knowledge of our buildings. They always seem to do a nice job for us, and they will be maintaining the prices from 2016 throughout this contract.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for Mr. Oman?
And it goes through the 21-22 budget year?
Correct.
Wow, okay. Thank you.
Motion's in order.
Mayor?
Councilmember Jacobs.
I move to approve a 3-year extension of the HVAC preventive maintenance contract with Tech Mechanical, Inc. of Pontiac, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $26,583.04 per year for all city buildings.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the public?
Yes. John Murray, on the Prevailing Wage Act, I know that the state eliminated it, but we still have a federal minimum wage. How do we police that and assure that we're getting what we want on this contract and any road work? Is there a policy that the city has? Who's responsible on verifying that they're meeting that criteria? I'd like an answer.
Okay, we'll get you an answer. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. Item 12, winter season road salt contract. Mr. Oman.
Mayor, this is to approve the 2019-2020 winter season road salt contract with Detroit Salt Company. We are purchasing this through a state bid contract, and the price per ton this year is $52.38, which is down about 14% from last year.
Okay, any comments to
Yeah, I have a
Mr. Ullman?
question. The Detroit Salt Company from Kansas City, Missouri?
I think that's where their headquarters is based at.
Okay, they're not buying it from Detroit and then shipping it back to us?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
Okay, motion's in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Kerwin.
motion to approve the 2019-2020 winter season road salt contract with Detroit Salt Company of Kansas City, Missouri in compliance with Michigan State bid in the amount not to exceed $87,998.40.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any comments from the public? From council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. I'm going to call up Mrs. Fulton, Community Resource Director, for the contract with Garden City Schools and supplemental appropriation.
Thank you, Mayor. We are once again working with the Garden City Public School District to provide community liaison, community engagement services in the schools. So members from my department will be at each of the school buildings in Garden City and working with families to connect them to different services and resources in the community, as well as getting them better connected with their school as well. This contract is for 9 months ending in June 30th, and it's in the amount of $22,860 for the school year.
Anybody got any questions for Mrs. Fulton? No. Okay. Motion's in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Kerwin.
motion to approve the 9-month contract between Garden City Public Schools and the City of Garden City Community Resources Department for community engagement services in the amount of $22,860, as well as the supplemental appropriation of funds, and authorize the Community Resource Director to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any comments from the public? From City Council? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Item 14, Fire Prevention Week. I'm going to call up Chief Harmon, our fire chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council, Mayor Doherty, City Manager Doherty, and Matthew, good evening. As you know, October is Fire Prevention Month, and our open house is going to be October 12th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have a special preview for our special needs children within the community. We will do this at the same time that'll be going on with the chili cook-off, the car and motorcycle show, as well as our police department. We're going to have the hay rides back and forth. So tonight I'm coming up for the resolution to declare Fire Prevention Week in Garden City, October 6th through 12th. Our theme this year is Not Every Hero Wears a Cape. Plan and practice your escape. So who wants to read it?
I will. Do you want it?
Is there any questions?
Do you want it read?
Won't make the motion.
Okay.
Motion's in
I
order.
move to adopt a resolution observing the week of October 6th through 12th, 2019, as Fire Prevention Week in the City of Garden City, and authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents related to this resolution.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Did you want to read it?
Sure.
If you want to, go ahead.
Okay. Whereas the City of Garden City is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our community. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at the greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires killed more than 3,400 people in the United States in 2017, and fire departments in the United States responded to more than 371,500 home fires. And whereas cooking equipment is the leading cause of the home structure fires and associated injuries, and the third leading cause of home fire deaths. And whereas heating and electrical equipment and smoking materials are among the leading causes of all reported home fires. And whereas home candle fires are reported to a U.S. fire department every 30 minutes on average. And whereas the risk of dying in a home structure fire caused by smoking materials rises with age. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas automatic fire sprinkler systems cut the risk of dying in a home fire by about 80%. And whereas Garden City paramedics are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection, education. And whereas Garden City's residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas the 2019 Fire Prevention Week theme, "Not Every Hero Wears a Cape," plan and practice your escape, recognizes the everyday people who motivate their households to develop and practice a home fire escape plan. These seemingly basic behaviors can have life-saving impact. Therefore, the mayor and council of the City of Garden City do hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2019, as Fire Prevention Week in our community and urge all the citizens of Garden City to protect their homes and families by heeding the important safety message of Fire Prevention Week 2019, and to attend the Garden City Fire Department Open House on October 12th, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Thank you. Any comments from the public on fire prevention? From the table? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. This time, we'll move on to public comments. We invite members of the public to the microphone to make a comment about any item that was not on the agenda. Please fill out the comment card, give it to the city clerk. You have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Only state the facts of the situation. No comments may include defaming or slanderous personnel attacks on any member of the city council or member of the city staff. Please introduce yourself, your street name, and city which you reside before making your comment. This is only your time to make a comment, not to receive a response back from members of city council or staff. Anybody wishing to make a comment for an item that was not on the agenda tonight? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Marge Hickman, Sheridan Street. First, I'd like to thank Officer Craig Lewis of our Garden City Police Department. About a month ago, Officer Lewis stopped our grandson who was driving down Maplewood in his Jeep police vehicle. And he asked him about the lights and siren. And this little boy come running in our house and he said, "Guess what happened to me? A fellow police officer stopped me." And he was so excited. How often do you have that in a city? I'd also like to thank our fire department. Our next door neighbors who have 2 small children was having a problem with their carbon monoxide detector. The husband wasn't home, the wife was a little panicked, came over, didn't know what to do. I called our fire department and they sent out right away, office of firemen. And it was a defective carbon monoxide, but they stopped and talked to our grandkids in the front yard and the kids that were over from next door playing. And these kids were just beaming. The last thing I'd like to ask the residents of Garden City to join my family and myself in supporting our police and fire millage. It's a renewal. We pay $144 a year, my husband and I, in our home, for this millage. It will just continue. It's not an increase. It's not a new millage. It's a continuance. I think it's very important. $144 a year for what we have. And I believe that we have the best of the best in this town. If you've had interaction with the police or the fire, I know you would agree with me. They have done a tremendous job in hiring new firemen, police officers. They fit right into this town. They care about the town. They care about the citizens. And I can't praise them enough. And I hope that the residents realize that we need to continue what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
This is Sandra Abraham.
Okay.
I would just like to say appreciation to the fire department and the rescue responders. I had a very bad fall back in February where I dislocated my elbow, blew out my knee, and broke my leg. The responders were there within 10 minutes, and the care and the gentleness and the kindness that they showed to me was just unreal. I don't think that anybody really appreciates the fire department and the first responders, but they're terrific. I live at the towers across the street, and they're there all the time. We could probably call the guys by their first names. And I have never once seen them be disrespectful. All they show is just constant kindness, caring, and a loving attitude. And I just want to make it known that they're the best. And the police are just as good. They're over there helping us out on different things too. And I just wanted to say thank you publicly to them.
Thank you. It's always good to hear these kind of comments. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
This is Barbara Ann.
I'm going to touch this. Is this okay to touch this? Okay. I want to recommend our fire department. Just like Sandy, who talked before me, in January, I pulled the plug, called the fire department. Unbeknownst to myself, they came so quickly, but unbeknownst to myself, if they would have been later, I wouldn't be here today. And they were gentle, considerate, and I understand that I gave them a rough time. Unfortunately, I can say fortunately, I didn't know what I was doing, but that's not the point. Our fire department, I live across the street. Within 5, maybe 10 minutes, they're there. Most of the people in the building are, well, we're all seniors actually, but some have dramatic things wrong with them, and some have petty things wrong with them, and some have neuroses and so forth. When the firemen come, they don't dilly-dally. They come, they're professional. Most of all, they're kind. They're gentle. And one time, when my mother was alive, we had to pull the cord, and Garden City was busy, so they sent us from another department. We won't go into that, because our department is gentle, kind, and considerate. Now, I ride a scooter, and the police department train all the rookies to pull me over when I'm on the street because I'm speeding. I'm their learning of a lesson type thing. But I have been across the street to the police station asking questions, things that I used to drive, so I know some of the laws, but things change, as we all know. But our fire department and our police department, the people in Garden City do not realize what a wonderful, caring community we are. I lived in Detroit, and we won't even discuss that. But the time that the firemen and the policemen give us, even when they come and we ask maybe perhaps idiotic questions, they never question us, they never laugh at us, and they're concerned. I thank the fire department, I thank the police department, and I also thank the mayor, the council of Garden City, for letting them be who they are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak under public comment? Yes, ma'am. Must be ladies' night tonight.
Hello, Melissa DeMichael, 29636 Hennepin Street. I'm here today on actually behalf of the Garden City High School Theater Program. It's that time of year where we're going to start doing our fundraiser. So our mom-to-mom sale is coming up a little bit early, about 5 weeks out. It's going to be November 2nd on Saturday right at Garden City High School. There's going to be large ticket items, 50-plus tables, bake sales that we run by the theater program. And there's still some time to get your mom-to-mom sale tables in. So if you got any questions, you guys can reach out to gcmom2momsale@hotmail.com. Once again, that's gcmom2momsale@hotmail.com. Or you can go right onto the Facebook site at www.facebook.com/gcmom2momsale. So once again, that's www.facebook.com/ GC Mom to Mom sale. And then a little bit of the ways out, but something to think about if you guys are craft people. The Holiday Craft and Vendor Show will be December 7th at the Garden City High School area again, and that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. $1 admission. We're going to have about over 75 tables, plus our bake sale concessions as well. All the proceeds go to the theater department for that. And for more information and table availability for the Craft and Vendor Show, you're going to want to email vendorshow@gmail.com. So to look for, again, table availability if you've got crafts of any sort, t-shirts, bracelets, anything. I know my little nieces like to make those little string bracelets, all that kind of stuff. You're just going to go to vendorshow@gmail.com, and they can let you know about the availability. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
John Murray on Lather Street. We have numerous employees working for the city. I sort of refer to them as like our business partners. And I have a small concern because we have defined pension plans, and they all have unfunded liabilities. And I'm wondering, what are we doing to protect them people? Because as we know, our economy fluctuates, and that's what generates an unfunded liability. So I'm wondering what kind of proactive programs we have on reducing that. And then the people I'm even more concerned about is the ones with the 401ks and annuities, because we send the money to a fund administrator, and they charge a fee for that. Then they put them into mutual funds that there's fee basis, and that can end up costing from 1.5 to 2% of the contributions they make. I'm thinking that maybe we need to look at maybe getting away from a fund administration, and myself, from the lessons I've learned, I would recommend we go to Charles Schwab, because they'll direct it for 0.8. A lot of the funds they recommend are at the 0.03, so we could reduce, the cost of managing that money, which in the long run, through compounding and everything else, our members, our business partners would get a better retirement. So I'd like to see the city take a position of maybe abrogating their agreement with this fund administration and go into a separate program to better off our people.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else? City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. To answer Mr. Murray's question, I would ask Ryan just to come up a little bit to just talk about the prevailing wage. I know that we've discussed numerous times on projects. Just a quick 1-minute hit where we are as a city.
So the City of Garden City does have an ordinance on the books that all contracts have to follow the prevailing wage, which is basically the Davis-Bacon wages. It follows a wage rate schedule that's provided by the U.S. Department of Labor. It's updated probably 4 or 5 times throughout the year that it's updated. That has to be followed by the contractors. We verify that by having our contractors submit certified payrolls on a weekly basis that we review to verify that those contractors are paying that prevailing wage.
So we do pay more for projects because of the prevailing wage, and we do have evidence coming back to us that it is being paid. All right, I have just two quick shout-outs tonight. Across the country, first to Councilwoman McCarge, who is in California waiting to be a grandmother. At 4 o'clock today, she said she's still on baby watch. So we're getting closer. And then a farther shout-out to my mother, as everyone knows, affectionately known as the Iron Maiden. She is celebrating her 80th birthday with my sister Diane and her family in Hawaii. And she is watching us live right now from the island of Kauai, 4,500 miles away. She may get the cake today for the farthest distance live watching. As she let me know right now, she's watching. So happy birthday, Mom. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Councilmember Kerwin?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay, Councilmember Lynch?
I have a couple things. First, I want to thank the ladies that came over from the towers and Mrs. Hickman, wherever she went. They're very nice comments and a real testament to the types of people that we hire here in Garden City, and who they are as people, but not only to the police and fire officers themselves, but also to the leadership of the police and fire department, all the way down from the chief, working their way down. So I think our police and fire is outstanding, and I've had the opportunity to experience in several other communities calling in police and fire at schools, and Garden City second to none. That's all I can say. Quick comment. If you are eligible for public assistance programs like the National School Lunch Program, Housing Assistance, Medicaid, SNAP, SSI, and others, and you live in an area where Comcast internet service is available, you may qualify, I said may, you have to go through Comcast, for a $9.95 per month plus tax internet connection. This is specifically something that is for, they're looking to get all school kids connected. So that is something, if you're interested, give Comcast a call, 1-855-8-INTERNET, and maybe they can hook you up. One of the big topics that we've been discussing at the CWW meetings, Conference of Western Wayne, has to do with recycling. I know that we've run into some problems with recycling because the markets aren't quite what they used to be. There's two things that I wanted to bring up. First of all, GFL has told us that glass, there's no longer a market for glass. So if you're putting glass items in your recycling, it says, GFL made it very clear that glass is not being recycled, and it's also a drain on the trucks and machines because of its weight. Therefore, if you're putting glass into the recycling, what's happening is, as they're dumping it out, it's going to the waste. So maybe you want to curb putting glass in. And the second big discussion point has to do with contamination. There is a lot of contamination in the recycling that is going on. If you're taking a can of pork and beans, dumping it out in the pot, and throwing that can directly into recycling, you're not only contaminating that can, but other things that the drainage from not rinsing off the pork and beans touches. If you're taking a detergent bottle or a softener bottle, those are two big ones. How do you get all the detergent out of the bottle is my first question, because that stuff bubbles long after you've washed it out 5 times. But if you're trying to put that in there, that is contamination. If you're not putting in, if you're leaving the cap on the top of the detergent or the softener bottle, that's 2 different types of plastic. That's contamination. So what's happening is roughly 45% of all things that are being put in the recycling is contaminated, and it's going directly over into regular waste. So GFL is looking at a way to get some sort of a campaign out to explain recycling, an education campaign, possibly through water bills on Garden City's part, as far as maybe making new stickers for the tops of the recycling cans, letting us know what the market is now. Because what the market was when we first picked up recycling, and now that China's not taking a lot of the recycling, the market has changed drastically. So there's a lot of things going on with the recycling, and I've asked our city manager to stay on top of that for Garden City. But definitely, if you're putting glass in right now, please hold back on the glass. And if you're not rinsing out your containers, please, if you're not going to do it, just put it in the trash, because that's where it's going to ultimately go anyway. Oh, and pizza boxes. Please, if you have grease on the cardboard, don't put the pizza box in there. If you're lucky enough just to have that removable piece of thick corrugated paper or cardboard on the bottom with the grease, you can take that out, put that in the trash, and put the pizza box in. But if the pizza box itself has grease spots, it's contaminated, don't put it into the recycling, please. And then on to one more thing for the city manager and to Mr. York, who I'm sure is listening. There's some new things going on with the Federal Communication Commission having to do with changes to cable franchises. And I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on, because it's not helpful to the cities. You got it. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jacobs?
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Squires?
Nothing except happy birthday, Mrs. Doherty.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it, thank you.
Councilmember Earl?
Two things. One, happy birthday, Mrs. Doherty. I'm glad you're watching. And the other thing is, we get a lot of updates from our state and, well, this is the first one from the federal level. The representatives, not the actual people that were elected, but people they choose to send here. I would love to hear what they're going to do to fix revenue sharing issues that have taken millions and millions of dollars from this city. All this other stuff, it is really doing nothing for our citizens. We need to find out what they're gonna do to bring the money back into the city. Because that's the reason that we have so many problems with being able to fund the important aspects of the city. So I would like an answer on that, and I would love to hear it from our elected officials. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miller?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay, I got a few things. First off, I want to say happy birthday to the Iron Maiden in Hawaii. Happy birthday. Yeah. None of us are allowed to tell you how to vote on the upcoming millage. What I can tell you about is our police and fire department, and then you can make up your own mind how you want to vote. But we have an excellent police and fire department. Just in the last several weeks, we had an armed robbery at 7-Eleven in our town. Within a week, our police department arrested this individual, and he's in Wayne County Jail waiting for trial right now. We had a barricaded gunman, and they had a standoff, and our police department talked the guy out of the house peacefully. No shots were fired. That's the kind of police department we had. Now let's talk about the fire department. You just had two of our residents in our senior towers talk about the care they receive from our fire department. Both our police and fire department have a response time between 3 and 5 minutes, which is better than the national average. So I can tell you we have an excellent police and fire department. You should consider these comments from residents and myself when you go to vote. And that's all I have tonight. No further business. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.